Hello everyone, watch this review here with a look at the Marvel Legends Juggernaut, possibly one of the most coveted figures from the Marvel Legends line. He's a frequent guest on top 10s lists. And when he first came out, he was a tremendous bargain, just given the sheer size of this character. This is the first appearance of Spider-Man. This is a Cyclops from the Sentinel series. As you can see, completely dwarfs them. Of course, since then, on the secondary market, he has gone up quite a bit. I picked this guy up for a net 35 loose, so, comparing him to the Marvel Select Juggernaut, I'll definitely say that the Marvel Select Juggernaut is a bigger bang for buck, especially given the fact that this character is a lot bigger and is a bit more widely available at this point for a little bit cheaper, I believe. But that kind of explains the pun. At any rate, that's not to say that the Marvel Legends Juggernaut is without its own advantages. Particularly, this figure is a lot better in the area of articulation. The Marvel Select doesn't really have a lot. Paint-wise, I definitely think it will lose a little bit points, and, also sculpt-wise, it just doesn't strike me as being as brawny as the big guy over here. At the same time, there's also one other neat thing this figure offers that the Select doesn't, and that's the ability to remove the mask, or helmet. Why do you call it a mask? It is a helmet. And see Kane Marco underneath. The completely deranged Kane Marco, looking like a crazy Chucky doll. No offense to crazy Chucky dolls. Now, the Marvel Select does have a unmasked variant, but come on, it's nowhere near the same, and, this is just pretty damn neat. Now, I do have a few criticisms of this figure, and I guess it's kind of iffy criticisms, but first off, where they put the little piece here that connects the helmet as a separate thing. It's just tacked onto it. I'm not sure why they did that, because I don't believe they probably reused the torso piece and anything else, but hey, they might have. And as a result, instead of sculpting it on, you have this huge noticeable gap on both the front and back portions. Also, as a lot of people have pointed out, when the helmet's on, it doesn't fit securely or snugly into place. Got a bit of gap here in the back, but hey, not a huge issue in either case. My other really big gripe with this is, although we have these crazy articulate fingers here, well, including an articulate thumb, the actual, I guess, brass knuckles or whatever that he has here isn't articulated, so he can't ever get a real full fist going, which, is a pretty massive drawback. Other than that, pretty cool paint job in this. Notably, they seem to have given him more of a metallic wash on the upper parts here on the helmet, this part here, and on the arms. They didn't do the same thing for the torso portion here, going down to his legs, which is, I guess, kind of bothersome. Now, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be like all metallic or anything, because it kind of does vary portrayal to portrayal. Like how much of it's just like straight up metal, but I would have liked a somewhat more consistent color. You will notice, however, that they did do some really cool highlighting and stuff in the boots where you have a bit of shadowing or whatever. It's pretty neat. It's kind of weird though, is you have like the veins bulging on the outfit here, so maybe it's kind of like more of a skin tight outfit thing. I'm not terribly familiar with the whole mechanics of how the outfit works. I've just more cared about the whole kick-assitude of this character. And he in fact does have lots of kick-assitude to spare as long as his helmet's on and people are out of his head. Now, in terms of both sculpt and design, I've always kind of favored this sort of disproportionately large torsoed look for the Juggernaut, and this figure does kind of have it to some extent. I am satisfied with basically how the whole muscle works and stuff. Not so much in regards to the arms, which look a little bit long and everything, and just not all that brawny. That's one area where I think that they kind of hit it out of the park with a select, just because these arms are huge and they definitely convey the whole muscle and everything. Of course, at the cost of, not being all that articulate. Now the veins, not a huge fan of just the weird colored veins and everything. I mean, I guess it is kind of a nice touch. And other than that, a pretty decent figure all around in terms of sculpt. Articulation-wise, again, pretty solid. Quick run through here. On a pin joint, going straight through the knuckles here, we have a single finger that moves, and then the other three are connected. There's a separate pin here for the thumb. It also runs straight through the wrist, which gives it the forward back motion seen here. We have a point of rotation here at the forearm. A single joint at the elbow, rotating bicep. A ball jointed shoulder in addition to having a part that pops out. I always like that because then you get an additional grasping area and stuff. Gives you all sorts of additional maneuverability, especially where you have bulkier biceps, which could otherwise be an issue. Of course, not a ton of characters that he can really grasp and restrain because the arms don't pull in all that much. Head is on a ball joint, has up-down motion in addition to side-to-side. Unfortunately, the head isn't all that far up, so no matter how you have him looking, it always is kind of a bit down. But, I mean, there aren't a lot of characters taller than him, or at least not in the Marvel Legends line, so, I mean, it's not too much of an issue. Now, he's got this really crazy waist joint. I'm not sure why they did that, but one of the really neat things about Toy Biz is that they seem to have really innovated and experimented a lot more than Hasbro has at any rate, and you'd get some sort of wildly different designs for some of the figures, and I'm not sure how many other figures have a joint like this, but I mean, it does give you the full range of motion in addition to forward back like you'd have on a ab crunch or upper torso. I mean, I guess in some ways it might be a little bit better than doing a torso joint, but I mean, if you're looking at it from behind, it's going to look kind of funky at times. Although in the front, it's not that visible, but when it's angled back like this, again, kind of crazy. Now we have a ball joint at the hip. The thigh can rotate, because it's a physical separate ball. A double pin joint here at the knee. Then at the ankle we have a forward back, then a side-to-side pivot, and a toe joint. The one drawback is the figure is a bit on the top-heavy side, so I mean, it kind of wears on the other joints, so he doesn't hold as many poses as you'd think as well as he might. I mean, the ones of mine, thankfully, are a bit tight, but over time I imagine it probably will loosen up a bit, just depending on how I have him posed. All in all, a pretty solid figure. I definitely like a lot of the articulation, as well as the fact that he has the open-handed poses available, just because, I think of the Juggernaut as being kind of a grappler as well as more of a brawler. You get a sort of refreshing mix there. Is he worth the whatever he's being charged for nowadays? Kind of depends. I mean, you can probably find him cheaper even than I did if you pick him up at like a convention or something. Just don't tell me about it because I don't want to know. I hate overpaying for stuff, but actually before, you might not have been able to see it all that clearly, but here's what I mean where the thing kind of pops out. Where it goes back all this distance. It's kind of messed up. What the heck do I have in my hand there? Then here for the back side. So yeah, I mean, definitely a kind of odd joint, but at the same time, it's kind of neat. Awesome head sculpt, by the way. Really do like the Kane Marco look. I'm not as fond of the helmeted look just because I prefer a more flat helmet. Let me get this thing right. You'll notice it's got like a little peg on each side, and fortunately does have a bit of leeway. There. You can actually push it in quite a bit so the little pop isn't even visible. See? I mean, that other problem I was mentioning earlier isn't 100% of the time. It just depends how you lock it into place, and you can't actually get it to go all the time. Also, you know, the helmet and some parts will naturally have some variation just because of the paint app. And that's what the head looks like inside, but just to contrast, I do prefer the much flatter thing that doesn't pop up like in the Marvel Select version. But yeah, I'm definitely happy I picked this up finally. Of course, I was hoping to wait until I could have gotten him for even cheaper, but you know, no such luck. Sometimes you just have to toss in the towel and, you know, pick it up at a price that you might not have wanted to pay. But yeah, this has been a look at the Marvel Legends Juggernaut. At some point you will see the Marvel Selects Juggernaut if it isn't up already. But yeah, until next time, folks.